Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and I got a hot one for you today. Woo! We're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. We're going to talk about the Ezra Miller's 2023 DC Cinematic Universe Flashpoint remake, The Flash, including Michael Keaton's Batman. And we're going to talk about a shocking lesson that this teaches the world that demands that every single dungeon master asks a few really key questions to themselves and gives themselves answers back based on those questions. Let's get into this. All right, so I'm going to try to get right to my point at the beginning of every video, tell you exactly what the point is, right? Because I think it's really critical, right? Because then you can decide if you want to watch the whole video or not, right? All right, okay, so here's the point of this video. In my humble opinion, Ezra Miller is a troubled, ill-behaved human being, okay? And Ezra Miller, based on those facts, is also not equally, but far more of a magnificent, world-class actor whose burden far outweighs, whose benefit far, whose boon. He is a actor. He is an artist. Thank you for your patience. Let me get to the point here. Who as an artist, their boon far outweighs their burden. Their boon far outweighs their burden. Okay? And this is incredible. All right, so first of all, let's just talk about Ezra Miller for a minute. So one, when you got to talk about Ezra Miller, you got to put a whole bunch of boundaries around it as far as pronouns. Right? So first of all, the pronouns for Ezra Miller are they, them. Okay? I really struggle with this because I get very confused when I use these pronouns because I'm not sure if we're talking about a group or if we're talking about a person, right? And I really wish we're still early on pronouns. I want to get fully on board and use the pronouns that everybody wants, but I desperately, are we too late to get rid of they, them? It is terrible and unclear, and it's already a used word. This is, so one, just asking society, can we do Zay's, can we go back to Zer, right? Zerzay, I really is frustrating that we're trying to use they for a single person. It really frustrates me. However, I'm dedicated to using the preferred pronouns that a person chooses. So as I speak about Ezra Miller, I'm so sorry. I've spent my entire life saying he, him, saying her, she, and I struggle to say they, them. So if I do at any point misgender Ezra Miller, I humbly apologize. It is nothing more than me simply just still getting used to this, they, them. All right. And also, just a question to society: Can we go to Zerzay? I think Zay's Zayzao. I think we should try Zayzao. I think that would really work. All right. Just ask it. Just ask it if we could do that. Just because they, them actually has a use, and it's a super useful use, and this is really muddying the waters and making it extremely difficult. All right. Ezra Miller, they, right? I am very familiar with Ezra Miller because I listened to Grace Randolph. Grace Randolph, not kidding, spent 6 months talking about Ezra Miller because she knew that what was happening with Ezra Miller was going to change, literally impact, not a joke, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of jobs, all connected to DC, connected to Warner Brothers, connected to a huge global property. And trust and believe, literally the fate of the DC cinematic universe rides on this one film, this Flash film, right? And I'll tell you, the other thing is I'm all in on meta. All I care about is meta, right? I do not watch movies in a vacuum. I care deeply about the meta, right? And this movie, there's a lot of meta on this film, right? I think The Flash is probably the most important, without a doubt, The Flash is the most important superhero movie of 2023. Without question, no exception. It is absolutely the most important, and because if this thing succeeds, the DC Cinematic Universe is going to have a much easier time existing, because I do think the DC Cinematic Universe is on the chopping block. Everybody's like, can James Gunn fix this? Because this has been hot garbage for probably 10 or 15 years, right? And but the things that have been put into this film, people are really excited about it, all right? But Grace Randolph talked about Ezra Miller for 6 months, and she would just report it, and she'd say, Ezra Miller did this terrible thing, and then another month later, Ezra Miller did this terrible thing, and then another month later, Ezra Miller did this terrible thing, and it was like a drum beat, man. It was just like bang, 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 right? And the conversation was Ezra Miller. It really looked like, I'm not saying Ezra Miller was. It looked like Ezra Miller was on a 6-month-long crime spree. It just looked that way. I'm not saying it was. Like there's literally the jury is still out. Like literally, figuratively and literally, the jury's still out on what actually happened, right? But from the drumbeat, there was never a point where, hey, everything's great with Ezra Miller and everything's back under control, right? There was never that. That never came, right? Now, the reviews are coming back, and they are spectacularly magnificent for Ezra Miller's The Flash, right? They're saying Michael Keaton is fantastic and Ezra Miller is better, right? And here's what The Flash does. It's a turning point in the history of film, okay? And we need to stop pretending. We need to stop pretending and just admit it. America has zero interest in consuming art from untroubled, well-behaved people. We are highly, highly motivated to see art of troubled, ill-behaved people. Period. End of sentence. All right? Like, everybody wants to see this movie. Ezra Miller went on what looked like a 6-month crime spree. Nothing was fixed. There were no apologies, right? And America's like, don't care. You got good art? Bet. We're on. Let's do it, right? And so the conversation's over. America is saying troubled people who are ill-behaved are engaging, exciting, and that's the art we want. Period. End of sentence. Right? America, and you're like, are you sure there, Scott? Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, right? Like there are literally dozens of these situations where people are like, oh, we're going to keep using, where Hollywood's like, troubled, ill-behaved person, let's get more art from it. Period. End of sentence. It's just the thing, okay? All right, now, real quick, right? So why? So actually, Grace Randolph also just fantastic movie reviewer, and actually, I don't think Grace identifies as a movie reviewer. I think she does do movie reviews. I think what's more valuable about her is Grace is a movie meta commentator. I am a Dungeons & Dragons meta commentator, okay? She is a movie meta commentator. And if you think I'm wrong, go look at Fish Jelly, Nick and Joseph over on Fish Jelly. Those guys are movie reviewers, man. Nick was saying he does 600 movie reviews a year, and man, does it show. They have reviewed every ridiculous film that's been out there, and Grace will routinely be just like, if you don't see me review a movie, the reason I'm not reviewing that movie is because it's not worthy my time. But Nick and Joseph don't do that, man. They review virtually every movie, like 600. Nick was saying he reviews 600 movies a year. That is absolutely astounding. That is absolutely incredible, right? So, all right. So basically, we need to have an honest conversation as Americans and just admit we have no interest. And Grace said this. She's like, why don't they vet these people and then find people who don't have all these huge problems and aren't troubled, ill-behaved people. Oh wait, Joss Whedon. There you go. Troubled and ill-behaved. His art is magnificent. Come on, have you seen Firefly? Come on, have you seen? Like, he did Avengers, right? Arguably, the entire model for modern movies is done off of Joss Whedon's work, right? He broke the narrative model and reforged it. Like, American cinema, global cinema, was reshaped by the Avengers film. Highly problematic, actually very troubled, ill-behaved person, right? Excuse me. Gotta get a little water in there to fight this 2023 summer American conflagration. All right. Thank you. All right. So and I realize why, right? Nobody wants art from untroubled, well-behaved people. Nobody wants it. Like that, and this I think is really interesting. People keep saying, why is there so much trouble with Wizards of the Coast? Because they're troubled and ill-behaved, right? And they make tremendous art, right? And I think the creator of OSE, I think he's an untroubled, well-behaved person who makes crap art. It's just it's the way it is. And this understanding, right? Now let's talk about this from the Dungeons & Dragons perspective, right? I had a huge blow up of my game that went for 2.5 years, and literally friends flew apart in different directions, and one of my friendships was permanently shattered, right? And at first I was like, hey, I had a commentator who would commentate here literally every day. He commentated here every day for about a year and a half, right? And I ended up blocking him, and the reason why was he was just like, he got to the point where he's frothing at the mouth, and he was just like, I hate your stuff so much, right? And I was like, no problem, man. You have every right to hate my material. Dungeon dudes are over the right. Shove over, right? Don't spend every single day of your life writing 4 paragraphs that I'm wrong and that you hate my material, right? It was unhealthy for him. It was unhealthy for me, right? And, and he had a game that's been going on for years, right? Why? Because he's an untroubled, well-behaved person, right? Whose art is junk. He serves up pablum. They eat gruel, and like David Copperfield, they're like, please more, sir, right? And the reality is, what we were doing was slightly reckless, slightly mischievous, right? It was wobbly, right, and problematic, right? And it was beautiful art, and it shattered into a million pieces when it was done, right? The group did, right? The art remains. We all have. I have this epic story, right? I have a character who lives in my heart, in my head, in my heart. His name is Beryl. He was a turtle wizard, and he is the second me. No two ways about it. There's no Dungeons & Dragons character that I have ever had a closer bond with, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, than Beryl the Turtle Wizard, right? It was incredible art. And I now realize it wasn't a problem. It very well may happen again, right? And so what you do is you get in, you get messy, and you get out, and then you rebuild, right? And that's exactly what's happening. And the reality is, Ezra Miller, they're like, he's getting in, it's going to get messy, it's going to shatter apart, and we're going to set him up again, because this guy's an epic artist, right? So here's the question, right? So one, I feel a lot, seeing this issue with Ezra Miller, I feel like this is answering a lot of questions, right? Why does a lot of my stuff, just shatter apart at times, and then I rebuild, right? Because I'm a great artist, right? Why am I, Scott Garibay, a great artist? Because I listened to Gary Gygax. I listened to him when he was alive, and I listened to him when he's dead, right? That guy is the modern Da Vinci, right? And so if you dedicate yourself to understanding him, you can do incredible things, right? So here's the question. So I'm going to posit to you now, right? You ain't looking for good players, right? You ain't looking for, untroubled, well-behaved players. You're looking for troubled, ill-behaved players, because the art is going to be spectacular, right? And as long as their boon is higher than their burden, that's the right player, right? So if you are out there and you've had a game going on for 10 years, you suck, right? You're not taking any risks. You're skiing every week on the bunny slopes. I'm saying it right now. If your Dungeons & Dragons campaign goes on more than 2.5 hours, you suck as a dungeon master, and you should get good. And you should find some troubled, ill-behaved players to get at your table and make some art that matters. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.